Please welcome Dr. Ali Parsa, renowned Islamic historian, author, and professor at California State University, Fullerton.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests here. This is all you need at the very last when you're tired. They told me to talk about philosophy so I can put you to sleep. But I think it's really important, although it's not political. So today I would like to speak with you very briefly only or mostly about the philosophical foundation based on which this resistance is built. In other words, it's vision. Successful civilizations throughout human history are built on solid economic and political foundations. However, what is even more important, I think, is fundamental, is its vision and its values. Although I'm not a member of Mujahideen and I don't claim to be a spokesperson for Mujahideen, which I am not, but I have been observing them and sometimes helping them on the side in the last 40 years. I've read all their books. I have listened to their lectures, their leaders. So what I'm about to tell you is my understanding. And people don't usually talk about these things, and they talk about politics, which I'm 100% behind them. But I think there is a reason why they have succeeded and continue to succeed for so many years. So the philosophy of the Mujahideen Khalq, or MEK, as stressed by Mr. Masood Rajavi, focuses on unity. This comes from Tawheed, the pillar of monotheism. They focus not the division, but the unity. In evolutionary journey of human history, great thinkers such as Plato, Rumi, the Persian wonderful poet, and modern German philosopher Hegel have believed that human advances are possible only when opposite sides of an argument come together in a complementary dualism. That's a philosophical technical point, to form a new synthesis in a higher mode of understanding. As a Muslim myself, the Quran itself treats reality in exactly the same way. If you look at it at a superficial level, it might seem like a collection of contradictory statements. But, for example, it highlights individual responsibility, but right after that, verses emphasize God's power over individuals. Understanding this apparent paradoxical challenge is a key to solving any human problem, including our own political situation in the United States of America, I hope. The challenge is simply how to find unity in opposition. The genius of American founding fathers in resolving this issue in one short, simple phrase, the Great Seal of the United States, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. The first part is emphasized all the time, but the second part is what needs to be emphasized. In their vision, they balanced the need for individual independence versus the need for social interdependence. In the economic realm, the founders balanced the freedom of individual entrepreneurship versus the understanding of the reality that we are all part of God's bigger plan. They believed we must balance our individual interest with a higher collective national interest. As historians of as a historian of religious philosophy, I have done extensive research on the Iranian opposition groups. My research includes studying all major works and writings, as well as the speeches given, as I said, by the leaders of the MEK. I have watched how they have applied, and that's a really important point, this belief in action. And I'll give you some examples. I have concluded MEK, or Mujahideen Khalq, sincere belief that there is no justification to wage armed struggle unless all other peaceful options are suppressed. This belief is consistent, by the way, for those who keep talking, throwing violence. These are violent groups, and they're fighting, and the past is violent. This belief consistent with the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights that allows for a people to take up arms. If you don't believe me, read it. Against their oppressor, where all peaceful avenues toward freedom have been suppressed by the state. I think MEK borrows this concept, the concept of militia, from early American revolutionaries. The cardinal ideology of Mujahideen, which is confused by many, including some who claim to be their sympathizers, is in philosophically stark contrast to the foundation of Marxism that asserts, no offense to my Marxist friend, but that's the truth about Marxism. For Marxism that asserts that the resolution of opposite historical forces is only possible through complete destruction of the opposite. I think this is a very fundamental point that people don't really get it. No need, of course, to say that this forward-looking and democratic worldwide worldview of MEK is also in complete contrast to the intolerant, anti-women. You know, I feel like lost after all these inspiring speeches by wonderful people, especially ladies who were before me, but what can I do? I'm a professor, and I'm used to lecturing long, boring 3 hours. That's my minimum. So, intolerant, anti-women, warmongering, and backward fundamentalist Islam in all its shape and form. That's very important. The MEK, not just in theory, but also in practice, some people forget, has consistently shown its belief in principle that ultimate goal is peace and unity, not blind fighting. For example, most of you know, but what can I do? Others might hear this. At the beginning of 1978, at the beginning of revolution, under intense criticism from the left and others, they tolerated brutal and unjustified attacks by Khomeini forces, which imprisoned, tortured, and killed many of the MEK members and supporters. The MEK sought political reconciliation and democratic solution for the good of the nation at first, but the regime opened fire on 500,000 peaceful demonstrators on the streets of Tehran in June 1981, and subsequently even killed detainees. Now, maybe the good news. Recently, one of the state-run news agency confessed, as my distinguished friend said before, I think mentioned, the vision of, this is according to state-run news agency, the vision of MEK has disastrously infected even the traditional religious seminaries in Qom. That's the bastion of Ayatollahs. The report says the philosophy and interpretation of Islam by Masoud Rajavi is, quote, freely being discussed among young students. It is time for Western politicians, intellectuals, and activists to stand with the progressive and forward-looking freedom fighters and Muslims of tomorrow, not with the regressive reactionary forces of the past. Hard to put that in place when, in the name of being inclusive to Muslims, many of my intellectual friends at the universities, they just forget that there is a principle that we all share, no matter how different we are in our opinion. The good news is we are experiencing the beginning of a profound reformation and enlightenment period in Islam that will eventually, hopefully sooner than later, spread throughout Islamic world. Just imagine what the world would be then when the Iranian resistance unseats the backward regime. We hope that you stand on the right side of history. We hope you stand with us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.